list of every single committee, subcommittee, subcommittee, and who is sitting on those committees. Not to find out later, because I questioned Marge on something. She's like, what? I didn't even know this was going on. That should be a no-no, because immediately residents were like, well, heck, they don't even know what's going on, so where's the transparency in all this? So there's a lot to take away from this meeting. So I hope you will all have another meeting where we're all communicated to, and we're going to continue this. And that's called a strategic plan. It is surprising to me, after working on many, many strategic plans and putting them together, that we don't have one. After so many years, we should have one. And just as the consultant stated, the minute you think it's done, it's not. It's a constant moving vehicle. But at least you have something and a basis to work on. So please encourage all of you. We're all passionate about this, or else we wouldn't be here. Okay? Let's walk away, let's see, and let's start prioritizing. How can we do this? And it's got to start communication and accountability. Because the moment I'm held accountable for not producing what I'm supposed to produce, or at least keeping you updated, you know, here it is, here's my update. Okay, I can understand why we're not going to meet this deadline because we're still waiting. It is the responsibility of the staff to also report back to council these updates. As council members, it's not, I shouldn't say it's not, but your priority isn't to constantly, hey Tosh, I emailed you, hey, I emailed you, where is this, where is, that's not your responsibility. It is me as a staff member that reports to council, because that is the other thing that's going on out here in the community. Well, who reports and who's the boss? Because I can tell you right now, a lot of the residents are thinking staff's the one who's running the city. Staff's running the city, and that is not true, and we know that's not true. But because the council doesn't stand up and make a stand about it, oh boy, here it comes. Accountability, that keeps being thought about. So please, walk away with this, develop your strategic plan, knowing that it's going to constantly change, but you have a foundation, and respect is earned, not expected. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm also grateful. So I have a lot less to say. Oh, I'm sorry, Jack Wallace. Yes, I have a lot less to say because there have been some really great comments, and I hope that staff and council really listened to those comments. What I would like to follow up with is, I think an overarching theme is that communication is a problem. And I would like to issue a challenge to both council and staff to do a better job in communicating with the public. Try to engage us. You know, there are lots more residents in the city who aren't aware of what's going on. And I'm going to say that has to do a lot with people being busy, raising families. I myself, my daughter's raised now, so I have a lot more time than I used to pay attention to things. But there are people, I think, who aren't engaged because they don't know what's going on. And I lay the blame partly with them, but partly with staff and with the council. So, a solution to that might be, how about a public workshop? Where staff, council, the residents can come together, residents can share the concerns that they have about communication, where the holes are, where they don't feel like they're getting the information, where the notice is. And in that, so they can complain, they can kind of vent, but with that, they can also offer some solutions. For example, there is an app, a phone app called Nextdoor that a lot of you could be using to communicate with your residents. Now that does leave out folks who aren't, not using a smartphone. So you're not really communicate with everybody that way, but that is an effective way to get instantaneous feedback, to get messages out to the community. Hey, there's a special meeting. When there's a special meeting, it's actually in the code that it should be conspicuously marked. So I think that that is a challenge actually to go above and beyond what you can do for a regular meeting. So there's that. There's also, you were talking earlier about council having issues or the residents having issues and council being unclear of the status of those, if those things have been resolved or whatever. There's something called a wiki that could be used to address that problem. You know, most people are familiar with Wikipedia, but you know, it doesn't have to be that involved. But a wiki just allows for information to be shared in an easy way. You can list a project, and underneath could be, you know, the goals, and then the status updates, and that could be updated by anybody easily. Anybody who can use email can use a wiki. It's not its own magic that only someone who's you know, very technology capable can use. It's also free. Wikis are free, so there's no additional cost to the city. So these are things that, you know, staff and council might not be aware of, that maybe the public are aware of, you know, for solutions, and there might be other holes that you're not aware of. But I think that the reason we're up here and we're so passionate, of course, a lot of us are here, you know, are more involved because of the power plant issue, but we're finding out about a lot of other things too. And you know, let's use this as an opportunity to make our government more inclusive and more democratic, because I feel that we all, and I'm including myself and including you, have a moral responsibility to do that. And it's messy and it's difficult, and sometimes people's feelings get hurt in that process. And I know staff mentioned feeling like they're being, there's an imposition. And certainly, I don't ever want to make anyone feel like that, but you know, that's part of the job sometimes. If you know, I think it was Councilman Moorhead said, if people are coming at you that way, maybe there's a problem, you know? So let's try to find a solution so we can work better as a team. And that team should include staff and council and the public. My final comment, actually I've got a couple more quick things. My final major point before I get into some little nitpicky things.
He's trying to pull off, okay?
Is that the very way this meeting was organized communicated a lot to us. We were left to the end. We weren't included. And I feel like the comments that have come out of this group have been very important, powerful comments. So that sends a message to us that we're not as important. And you know, I envisioned where this thing could have been a little bit more inclusive, and you could have actually responded to some of our comments, and we could have done some dirty work, you know, and that was a missed opportunity, I think. So just quickly, I'll go through. I hope we don't ever do this again in this room. I think the way you set it up with the dais and the audience facing you, we could have done that in council chambers. And this room had very poor acoustics. And was a challenge for even me sitting right here. I couldn't hear you folks right here. And that's it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Yes. Oh, okay, we gotta get you up.
Go ahead.
My name is Carol McKelvey, and I think this is a very useful meeting because it kind of identifies that we are a whole and a group, a team, essentially. And I've been aware of the state government and people in the state government kind of trying to bully Newark. And I think it's important for us as a group to be strong together because there are forces outside of our city that have intentionality that may not be what we want as a city. We are firmly decided what we want, but they're trying to curtail our process of deciding what we want. And I think as a group, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and know there are forces that are essentially having a point of view, and they are bullying the city of Newark.
Thank you.
My name's Amy Rowe. I live in District 4. I want to take issue with a couple of things. I feel as though today, being here, away from my family, to be here is really an indication that as a community, as a municipality, we've hit rock bottom. We have hit rock bottom so hard that we now have to have this kind of conversation. And that this meeting was arranged in secret, wasn't noticed properly or adequately, is terrible. This is just, I mean, is this hypocrisy that I'm seeing here? Because I've been listening for a couple of hours now, and I feel like it would just be terrible if this were hypocrisy. I hope that the dialogue that's happened here is sincere. Later today, in a couple of hours, the City of Newark is going to have an event on our main street. It's going to shut down our main street that discriminates against who can participate. I mean, inclusiveness is the number one issue that we've got going on here. And I'm sorry to the staff if you feel as though accountability means a public inquisition, but that's your job. And I kind of feel like I want to tell you to suck it up and do your job, and then maybe it won't be so hard. I mean, honestly, for Pete's sake. Marge made a comment about how, I love you, Marge, you've been my neighbor 20 years. You made a comment about how you're a member of the public, but you're not a member of the public anymore. So your participation is not proxy for the public. And we have been shut out so hard that we had to scramble so that we even knew about this. And this is supposed to be the big cathartic moment. And a final point, and this is to the point of the facilitator, your first message here today, which I think is really damaging, is that the municipality is a business. And we are not a business. And our mission statement of our community is about providing services to customers, and we are not your customers. We are citizens here. And I think we need to go all the way back to ground zero and redefine exactly what the city thinks that it is. Because obviously my expectations and a lot of our expectations are different. We expect transparency, we expect inclusiveness, we expect not to be lied to from staff. The backpedaling when you catch something dirty happening, the backpedaling that goes on looks suspicious. It's just, you know, if we could wake up tomorrow and start over, we need to do it. But this whole moment here, I think, is a real bottom point. And I don't want to be the last person to speak because I don't want to end on that, but that is what I believe to be the truth, and I felt like I had to share it.
Thanks. Yes.
Brian Dunnigan. With regard to council meetings, you want to streamline, and you've done it a few times. Keep trying, keep doing things. If you want to do a countdown clock, it's easy to do, put it right at the podium. Someone may have to start it and stop it properly. There may even have to be an enforcer in the meetings. The mayor, it's difficult for her to be the ultimate enforcer. She has the gavel, it should speak for itself, but it's difficult, and as soon as she makes verbal contact, sometimes that causes animosity. So a assistant enforcer in the audience with the second microphone. How about it? When people walk away from the microphone, sometimes there are questions. That takes up time. Just let the 3 minutes, do it. Do the 3 minutes, get a countdown clock. They'll see that they're running out of time. Be done with them if you really want that meeting to speed by. Streamlining, also the whole setup. Maybe UD needs a chair near staff. He sits there all the time, or so we can find him, or we can see his reactions. The meetings are a high priority for you. And there can be some things to potentially streamline it. I don't know, it may not work. The enforcer, people might start getting angry with him, but the enforcer can say to people who are talking, please take it to the outside the door. It's a perfectly reasonable request. The mayor cannot do that from where she's sitting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else who hasn't spoken?
Just a couple quick
Okay,
comments.
quickly, go ahead, sure.
I want to touch on what he said about streamlining the meetings. We're often told that it's the public that takes up a lot of time, but at last week's meeting, we watched council sit there and try to fix a completely hopeless ordinance that they should have just sent back to staff and said, write this so it makes sense. And my other comment is something Todd Ruckel said, I believe, which was that most of the staff live outside of Newark. I'm not saying you shouldn't hire people from out of town, but if Newark is such a great place, why do so many people choose not to live here?
Thank you, sir.
I'll tell you real quick. For anyone to believe, first I had Carol hit the nail right on the head. We have all witnessed attacks on municipalities, on local governments, on individuals. And someone made a very good point that you have a lot of talent out here in Newark. And you have a group of people that is very talented at finding research, connecting the dots, and putting it all together. And giving you information that you never would have thought of finding, never have been avoided to find, and it had been hidden from. So I'll tell you what, I speak for myself, Brett, Dan, Jeff, and Eric. We will make you a promise. You fight for the people of Newark. And when we go to Legislative Hall like we do, we will fight for you. Because on the 30th, believe me when I tell you, we will be there until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, like we are every day of legislative session when they have their last day and they suspend rules. If you don't think that $3 million that they took away from the university was a punishment, City of Newark is sadly mistaken. If you don't think HB 404 is a punishment, we're all sadly mistaken. And many years ago, when the City of Newark didn't get their $1 million, that was a punishment. You stand for the citizens of Newark, and we will fight for you in Dover.
Yes, sir.
One quick thing about leadership. In my time in the Army, I got to witness great leadership and terrible leadership. Two things make a good leader in my mind. One, communication with the people that you're leading. They have to understand what you're trying to do. If I don't understand what you're trying to do and you're telling me to follow you, I'm not following you anyway. If I understand what you're trying to do, I will follow you into Hades, and if you fall, I will carry you back. But I need to know what's going on. The second thing is a leader cannot be a hypocrite. A leader cannot give me rules that he is not willing to follow himself. So if you expect to make rules for me, it needs to be something that you're going to follow on your own. If you're going to yell at me for talking out of turn, everyone needs to get yelled at for talking out of turn. If you're going to bang the gavel, when someone in the crowd speaks up against something, you need to bang the gavel when someone in the staff speaks up on something out of turn. And those are the signs of leadership that people want to follow. When you enforce the rules the same for everyone, when you communicate exactly what's expected, and then that's exactly what happens, that's when people will follow you anywhere. Thank you.
Let me do it one more. Someone about the 3 minutes, someone said about 3 minutes. For the average person, that's too little of a time because we're not used to getting up, talking in public.
Ann, can
So-
you state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ann. And should I stand up again? Do you need me to stand up again?
No.
Okay, so that's too short of a time. We're not used to getting up and speaking a lot, so like the first 30 seconds for me is very nervous. So 3 minutes is too short a time. And maybe we need to have computers there for people to sign in instead of paper. And people can put their questions into the computer in some type of online format that they're bringing to council that night that they're going to raise, so that you don't have to search through any minutes to understand what questions have been brought to the table. And it can be done very technology-based and very systematic in a project management program. So I just raised that.
Thank you. 12:30, I'm sure people's stomachs are rolling. So, thanks to all of you for coming. Congratulations to all of you. I hope you all understand each other a little bit better. We're able to go forward in a more effective way.
Meeting adjourned.